Onion Cycles podcast is about thought provoking, emotion evoking, action driven, step by step guidance to explore the unique, glorious, and wonderful ocean of your being. Because healing is a multi layered process of getting to know oneself. Become the self empowered empiric researcher by discovering the unique layers of your existence. With your host, Nadine Alma, welcome to the Holistic Healing Hub. Welcome to the Onion Cycles podcast.
There is a story there. There's a story about a girl who said she wanted to have it all. She said she was ready to leave everything behind to gain that success that she deemed was hers. She said she's gonna leave everything in material wealth behind. She said she's gonna sell everything she has and live the dream of a digital nomad. She said what her extraordinary life would look like would be to be traveling all the time, see all the places, meet all the people, and be wherever the universe wanted her to be, wherever she was meant to be. But then also, there was something in her mind that prevented her from creating that extraordinary life for herself. What has gotten in the way was her own head. I don't think I'm good enough. Who am I thinking I can transform people's lives? What do I have to offer for any client? It is all talk and no real skill. You're just delusional. Who do you think you are? Also, you alone in the world, you can't rely on others. You can't rely on anyone but yourself, and you're weak. You're weak. You should be scared of leaving everything you know behind. But something in herself was stronger than that voice. And that something within her said, no, you have skill. You have to believe in yourself. You have the abilities. You have the senses that are real. These senses that tell you that you're valid and what you have to say is valid. And you can actually shift people and help them, support them in their own journeys. You can actually be a visionary and you can empower people to be visionaries for their own lives as well. Also, why are you so scared? Money comes in many shapes. You will constantly improve your knowledge. You're so thirsty for knowledge. Don't be scared. Go. You have something to give. You have a light to shine. And then she determined the two most stressful thoughts that triggered her. She was constantly questioning if she was doing the right thing. What if all within herself was an illusion? What if she was insane? What if something goes off plan? What if money runs out? What if, what if, what if she had to go back to a normal day job in an office? What if she doesn't leave a legacy on this world? What if everything she has to say was wicked and only in her mind made sense, but to no one else? And again, what if money runs out? And then she signed up for a 5-day challenge. And in that 5-day challenge, what she did was she reframed these stressful thoughts to the antithesis. She thought that in these 5 days, something within her started truly shifting. Her whole life was basically a search, seeking for the sake of seeking, if you want. And in these 5 days, something within the seeking soul of her became whole. Hello, my beloved souls. Hello, my beloved fellow healing integrating onions. Welcome back to another episode. Welcome back to Story 37, Episode 38, Believe. Now, what I've told you is a very personal story, a story about my life and a story about a 5 day challenge that I signed up to a couple of years ago now. The challenge was hosted by Tony Robbins. I'm sure most of you know him. He is, after all, huge in the self empowerment industry. If you don't know him, just go ahead and Google him. I will, in this episode, use a couple of the tools he gave me in this 5 day free challenge he did on YouTube and tell you about all of that. And the tools I will talk about, they revolve around belief. Because beliefs create and beliefs destroy. And it is our beliefs that sort of make up and sum up what our life looks like, what we as people feel like. And our beliefs are not only formed by words, we will get to words and linguistic programming in another episode. Today we start with beliefs because this is the final fourth of our year together. This is the final fourth of what I wanted to discuss. And in these last episodes, we will do anything that really gets you into motion. As I said from the very beginning, our podcast is revolving around the credo and the motto: as I think, so I feel, so I act. So, in this last and fourth quarter of our time together, everything is about doing. And the exercises on the worksheets that you can download for free on my website, www.wonderfinder.org. Yes, they are valuable, and yes, they have meant to put you into action, put the waves of change within yourself into motion. But this last quarter is really where we dive into digging deep on how we can actually act. Like, what does it take for you to get up and implement? How much do you really want to change your life, to change your persona, to be the person you want to be, and to live the life you want to live? We got very clear on who we want to be, what we deem successful, what we want out of our life, and how we can actually dive deep within and know ourselves to get there. Now it's all about getting to know the tools to implement into our daily lives. It is about consistency, and I'm not saying that if you have a bad day and fall into old patterns that is a bad thing or that shouldn't happen. Far from it. It's your journey, it's very individual. No one can tell you what is right for you on any given day. It's your decision to make and your responsibility to bear. That is for sure. What I, however, want to do is talk every week about hands on exercises that will help you to be consistent and shape what it means to embrace that new you, that new life, that new outlook, that new mindset that you may have shaped along the journey so far. Now, the story I told you was very personal, and it implemented a lot of my own personal beliefs. And what I can say from my very own experience is that behind beliefs, there are always stories that shape who we are, and they also shape who we will become. So, in this story, in this example, I was held back by all of the old belief systems, by all the old patterns that have been ingrained in myself. So, by saying that I'm not good enough, that I'm delusional, all of these patterns resurfaced when I dove into exploring why I felt depressed, why I wasn't feeling happy, why I wasn't capable of leading a happy life, something everyone else seems pretty good at doing, right? So that is why I wanted to address this as a first tool, because once we become empowered and are these self-empowered researchers, we might come to a point where we ask ourselves, well, I've done the work, I understand emotional body healing, and I understand triggers, and I'm here now, and I'm still not feeling anything different, anything better, or any way closer to where I want to get. And that is, I think, an appropriate time to really address the core belief systems that are ingrained in your soul. And they come either unconsciously or consciously. So sometimes they're acquired from childhood trauma or from a trauma in adulthood. Sometimes they come in the form of being very mindful about bringing something into your life. And beliefs are not merely bad, they can be destructive, they can also be very valuable. So, what we will do in this episode is dive into a snapshot of the belief that we harbor at the moment, and from there encounter emotions again, as well as the success cycle that has been called so by Tony Robbins. Now, stories, as I told you, that was the story I encountered. Now, you may do the same. You might ask yourself the question, what does an extraordinary life look like for you? Like, just jot everything down that comes to your mind and then go into what is preventing you from creating this extraordinary life, right? What has it been in the past that has gotten in the way? And from there, you really can go deep and determine what you need to change now, in this present moment, to make that life happen on your terms. What needs to shift? And then ask yourself, what are the two most stressful thoughts that consistently show up in your life? And what tends to trigger them? Like, if you want to create that new life, you have to work on your belief. And you have to, in order to work on your belief, first know what your belief is, right? And in order to get those two most stressful thoughts changed and transformed into an antithesis of the old thoughts, into new thoughts that then actually empower you to live that life that you so want, be that person that you want to be, you have to think clearly, and you have to be very clear about where you come from. So, on the worksheet that I mentioned earlier for the free download on my website www.wonderfinder.org, the first exercise you want to do is ask yourself the question, life is, and fill in the blank. There is no need to compare yourself. There is no need to ask what others wrote. Just write down the first word, the first sentence, the first phrase that comes into your mind, and then think about that very phrase. Because in this efficient exercise, you will find that this gives you an accurate snapshot of where your mind is right now, where deep down, where the core of your soul is at right now. And then you can determine what you have to work on, because the snapshot of your belief and what you journal about, how that came about, or why this may have come to be, you then slowly carve out the story behind it. From that story, you can then get to the second stage, which is facing a hard truth, because you hang on to your pain as long as you value something else more. And of course, it's the way there that will make you happy. That is for sure. There is no end destination. Anyway, you know that. So, still, whenever you come to reflect on that hard truth, in every moment that you know you're sort of pushing it off, you're procrastinating, you're doing everything to not do the work and not make the healthy decision towards the direction you want to take, from that exercise asking you about the hard truth, determine what is it that holds you back. For example, you're procrastinating. It doesn't matter for what. If you want to lose weight, if you want to quit the job, if you want to be self-employed, if you want to have that project promotion, if you want to get out of a toxic relationship, as soon as you procrastinate, you hang on to a pain that is giving you something else that is more important than the goal you want to achieve. So your brain, we know that, chooses the unhealthy known and the pain always before the unknown. That is one thing. But you also find excuses. You blame others, you blame your environment, you feel comfortable with blaming yourself because that is more known. You know your way around being in a mindset of self harming, mentally or physically, even. So, people that are known and habits that are known keep you in that safe net of, I know how that feels, that will keep me safe, and everything outside of that is unsafe. So therefore, my own brain deceives me, and I myself deceive me as well in the case of procrastination, not doing the work needed that be done, right? If we then get to the success cycle, we see how that is harmful, because all of us, we have potential within ourselves. Every one of us is equipped with everything we need to have the life we want. But then we need to get into action, which is what these last few episodes of our year together will all be about. In order to have that action and create results, we have that little gap that is called momentum. And the results of the momentum of the action we took and the momentum created feeds into our belief systems, because a belief is nothing else than having absolute certainty about something. So if I believe that I'm a procrastinator and I talk about how I am a procrastinator, I will sort of rinse and repeat my own beliefs, and I will never get out of that cycle unless I step into action and purposefully and very mindfully work in steps for not being a procrastinator anymore, right? And we then get to know why we do that. 100% of the time, this can be followed back to our emotions. Our emotional state is the one that is determining how far we get in life. Beliefs are shown in our emotions. We did track our emotions before. I did an episode also on emotional body healing. So if you want to go back to these episodes, please feel free to do so. How we feel, so we think, so we act, right? So if we look close at why we procrastinate and not make the decision to get a step closer to where we want to go, and then determine the emotion behind that, and then dive even deeper and look at where this emotion comes from, then these emotions over time create our habits. And these habits is sort of like Tony Robbins, I think, calls it the emotional home. So what you know is your home, is what we called out before, is the brain chooses the unhealthy known over the healthy unknown, right? So what is known to you is your home. It doesn't matter how abusive it is, that is saved in the body and stored in the brain to be rinsed and repeat all over again. So, unless we know our emotions, we will never know why we procrastinate, and therefore we won't be able to get into action to create the momentum that will create results that then recreate our belief systems, because we know we've done it before, we can do it again. Lastly, what I want to add to this discussion is something very beautiful I stumbled across the other day, is the word glimmer. They used it as a antonym to the word trigger, which I found very lovely, because we talk about triggers a lot, but we never talked about what the opposite of a trigger could be. And they describe it as glimmer. And glimmer is everything that's beautiful, it's everything that brings you joy and laughter and relief and everything good, everything that we deem good and beautiful and light in life. So they say that as long as you try and educate your brain on focusing on the glimmers, the triggers will recede. The triggers will fall away slowly and over time, because Learning is a process, and the more you rinse and repeat, the more you get the result you wish, right? So, where is your focus on? Is your focus on what you can control or what you can't control? Is your focus on yourself or is it on others? Is your focus on the present, the past, the future? Where lies your focus? So, getting to know your focus will enable you to know that out there is always something in life happening, because life is just an experience, and rupture creates friction, and friction creates growth, and we are here for growth. So as long as you find your where your own focus lies, you then can evaluate if your focus more on triggers or on glimmers, right? Once we start empowering ourselves by taking responsibility and looking closer at our emotions, we detect beliefs that determine what we deem possible. So the action creates momentum, creates results that feed in our belief system, that we know we have the potential to do something, and that can be repeated. And when the success cycle begins and you are able to determine what sparks momentum for you, then if you go into the direction and further this notion of, yes, that felt good, yes, that is the new me, yes, that is what I want in my life, yes, this is a story I want to implement, this is the story I want to live through, then out of that, growth happens, so that triggers become less frequent and glimmers multiply. Now, I've talked a lot in this episode about beliefs, because beliefs, like I said, they create, they also destroy. The reason why we start this last fourth of our time together with beliefs is because they're at the core of everything that we are. Whether it's unconscious or conscious, they determine the life you live, the story you live. With that said, my beloved fellow healing integrating onions, I wish that you sit down for yourselves this week and write down the story of your life as you want it to be. You can, if you don't like writing, make a collage. You can do it with photos. You can make a video if you are a videographer. But do something that makes you see the potential within you. It is really time to step up the game. It is really time to see that nothing is preventing you from anything. You are in charge. You have everything you need within yourself, and your light is so important and so needed. And I wish that you see that yourself too. I see you, and I know that it is a struggle. I also know that it is worth it. And I also know that despite the fact that I am myself nowhere near where I want to be, I know that the journey and every step I took to where I am now is worthy. Feel the joy of reinventing yourself as many times as you want, but go to the core of your beliefs, detect the emotions attached to those beliefs, and redirect them in a way that is purposeful for you, so that you are the most resourceful person around and can be a lighthouse for everyone else that needs inspiration. We need you. All of us, we need you. And until next time, my beloved fellow healing integrating onions.